Okay, good morning, students. Shall we begin with the lecture? Okay, can you see my screen presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so in yesterday's lecture, we have seen about the very basic introduction about what is photosynthesis. Okay. And then I told you that we are going to study photosynthesis in bacteria. And for that, we need some comparison with the plant photosynthesis process. Okay, so we are going to compare plant and microbial photosynthesis. And one important thing is that although there may be a lot of differences as to the components that are involved in the photosynthetic system, the basic mechanism of photosynthesis remains the same. Okay, so similar concepts are involved with a few differences, of course. Yesterday we have seen about the structure of the chloroplast. We have seen where actually the photosynthesis in plants take place. Okay, it happens in the chloroplasts, where there is a then outer membrane, there is an inner membrane, and within the inner membrane there is a cavity which houses what are called as sac-like structures called the thylakoids. These thylakoids are arranged in a particular manner in a particular format, and that particular structure which is formed due to arrangement of the thylakoids is called as the granum. Singular is granum and the plural of granum is grana. Okay, and the thylakoid membrane is where there are different pigments which are present, and these are responsible for collecting the light. Okay, that is to say the light reactions happen in the thylakoid membrane, whereas the dark reactions, that is the actual synthesis reaction, actually happens in the stroma. Stroma is the matrix of the chloroplast which is present, which is enclosed in the inner membrane. Okay, so having seen that, we would go to an important thing which is called as which is actually which gives the proof of the light reaction. Okay, so for this in 1937, one famous scientist by the name Robert Hill, he performed an experiment, and in the experiment he what he did was he took leaf extracts. Okay, so remember that this is not a complete leaf structure. Okay, but what he did was he extracted the leaves, and the extract contains chloroplasts. Okay, and these the extract is then illuminated with sunlight. Okay, and then he found that when there was proper illumination of the chloroplast, then oxygen was evolved. Okay, and then just to try out something, what he did was he used a non-biological electron acceptor, which is 2,6-dichlorophenol indophenol. Okay, so instead of using when he used this particular non-biological electron acceptor, it actually bypasses the reaction where the biological electron acceptor is going to capture the electrons. Okay, and now this particular non-biological or synthetic electron acceptor, when it accepts the electrons, it changes the color from a blue color to a colorless. Okay, and this particular change in color from blue to colorless indicates that this non-biological electron acceptor has already accepted the electrons, and therefore it has undergone the reduction process. Okay, and when the same reaction was carried out without any illumination, that is in the dark, then he found that the dye was not reduced, that is there was no change in color from the blue color to colorless, and at the same time he also found that oxygen was not evolved. Okay, and then he also found that when CO2 was supplemented, or if CO2 was not supplemented, there was no change in the reaction, indicating that CO2 was as such was not required for the process. Okay, indicating that the reduction of the non-biological electron acceptor is not dependent upon CO2. Okay, contrary to the earlier thought which according to which people thought that CO2 was required for the reduction process to take place, or CO2 was required for oxygen evolution. Okay, so when CO2 was not supplemented, even then the oxygen was evolved, indicating that there was no role of CO2 in the reduction process or in the evolution of oxygen. Okay, then later there was another scientist by the name Severo Ochoa, and this scientist found out that the biological electron acceptor is actually NADP. Okay, whatever role was played here by the non-biological electron acceptor, that is actually played by the biological electron acceptor, which is called NADP. Is it right? Okay, and based upon this particular observation, which was given by Robert Hill, this particular phenomenon or process came to be called as the Hill reaction. Okay, so what is the Hill reaction? It is the photo reduction of an electron acceptor by the hydrogen of water, not CO2. Okay, and this is normally associated with the oxygen evolution. Okay, and then later on, as it was found out, the final electron acceptor is NADP, and therefore we have the Hill reaction, which is stated like this: twice H2O plus twice NADP gives twice NADPH. That is reduction of NADP. NADP is the biological electron acceptor. Okay, and of course, because of the splitting of water molecule, we have the evolution of protons. So 2H plus, and then it is associated with the evolution of oxygen. Okay, so in plant photosynthesis, there is an evolution of oxygen, and therefore it is also called as oxygenic photosynthesis. Is it okay? Everybody has understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this particular non-biological electron acceptor 2,6-dichlorophenol indophenol is also called as DPIP. Okay, this chemical is used to replace NADPH, NADP it should be. I'll just delete this H here. Okay, so NADP is the biological electron acceptor. In the place of NADP, what Hill did was he used a non-biological electron acceptor, that is DPIP. Now, when this dye is oxidized, it is blue in color normally, but when it takes up the electrons, when it is reduced, then it changes the color, it becomes colorless. Okay. This is the structure of DPIP when it is in the oxidized state. It has a structure like this. This nitrogen is coupled with a double bond to this ring, okay, phenyl ring. But when it becomes colorless, that is when it accepts the electron, then this double bond is removed here, and we have this hydrogen bonding, NH bond. Okay, so in this particular structure, it is a reduced from a form of DPIP, which is colorless. Okay. And then we should also know what is the overall reaction of photosynthesis. That is 6CO2. Why CO2 is required? CO2 is required for the fixation. That is CO2 will be converted into the organic molecule, okay, carbohydrate or glucose, for example. And 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus in the presence of sunlight, we have the production of the carbohydrate, that is C6H12O6, that is glucose molecule, and there is evolution of oxygen, 6O2. Okay, where is the oxygen coming from? Where is
From
the
what?
oxygen?
H2O.
H2O. Okay, oxygen is coming not
Yes.
from CO2, but it is coming from H2O. Okay, we are going to see a little later about the detailed process how the oxygen is evolved. Okay, but that is later. Okay, so what is the light reaction? Light reaction requires sunlight. It requires sunlight, and therefore it is called light reaction. Dark reaction does not require light, although it can take place both in light as well as in the dark, but it doesn't require light, and therefore it is called as the dark reaction. Okay, light reaction requires sunlight, and it does not essentially require CO2, because CO2 requirement is in the dark reaction. Okay, CO2 requirement is not in the light reaction. So the light reaction produces ATP, and it also produces NADPH. Okay, how it produces ATP and how it produces NADPH? that is where we should understand the role of the photosynthetic pigments. Okay, the primary pigment is chlorophyll A or chlorophyll B, and then there are accessory pigments which are helping the accumulation of light or gathering of light. These accessory pigments are, for example, carotenoids, or it could be phycobilins. Okay, and what happens is, because of the absorption of light, okay, electrons are excited. Okay, electrons in the primary pigment are excited, and for this particular thing, let me admit two students. Okay, these electrons are electrons are actually derived from water. Okay, water molecule. And then, as I told you earlier, that water molecule actually is a very poor donor of electrons. It will not easily give away the electrons, and therefore that molecule of water must be excited, and that excitation is because of the sunlight. Okay, this excitation itself takes place in a number of steps. Okay, and we categorize these steps into two different systems, which are called as the photosystems. Okay, so there is a photosystem 1, and there is another photosystem which is called photosystem 2. These are operational in plants. Okay, right now we are talking about the plant photosynthesis. So what happens because of the photosystems? The electrons are passed to a cytochrome containing electron transport chain. Okay, so electrons are carried sequentially from one electron carrier to the other electron carrier. Okay, in the first photosystem, these electrons are used to generate ATP. Okay, first photosystem or photosystem 1 generates the ATP. Okay, and in the second photosystem, the excited electrons are used to produce reduced coenzyme, that is NADPH. Okay, that is to say, we generate the reducing power by using the photosystem 2. Okay, and then both the ATP and NADPH which are generated, they are then used in the dark reaction for the production of glucose. Okay, and this production of glucose essentially will take place by the fixation of CO2. So CO2 is required in the dark reaction. So do you have any queries till this point? I don't know how many participants are there. 18, 17. Okay, so still I think 5 students are absent. And you should know one thing, that your presence, your attendance in the online sessions is very important, because that is used for calculating your, computing your marks. Okay, your internal exam marks. As in the last semester, they are that is done from your attendance. Okay, as well as the assignments that you are completing. And then, of course, we also have the internal test. Last time I have taken 5 internal tests. Okay, so internal test, your attendance, as well as the assignments. All these things are considered for your 20-mark internal assessment. Okay, then coming to the different types of photosynthetic pigments. Now we are talking about the plants here. Okay, can you see this part here? Plants. We have two types of pigments. One is called the primary pigments, and the other type of pigments are the accessory pigments. Okay. So the primary pigments are, for example, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. I don't know if somebody wants to attend this. Okay. So chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, these are the primary pigments. Primary pigments is the name is given here because they perform the most important function of actually actually carrying out the electron transport or initiating the electron transport chain. Okay, and then the accessory pigments are there. For example, carotenoids. The example of carotenoid is lutein or xanthophyll and beta carotene. Okay, in the case of cyanobacteria, that is blue-green algae, and in the red algae, the primary pigment is chlorophyll A, and the accessory pigments are phycobilins. Okay, there are two types of phycobilin. One is phycoerythrobilin, and the other is phycocyanobacterin. Okay, And these two types of accessory pigments, they form complexes with proteins. And when they form the complexes, then they are called as phycoerythrin and phycocyanin. And there is a third kind of a complex which is called allophycocyanin. Okay, then in the case of the bacteria, there are two types of photosynthetic bacteria. One is called as the purple bacteria and the other is called as the green bacteria. Okay, then there are purple sulfur bacteria, purple non-sulfur bacteria. There are green sulfur bacteria and green non-sulfur bacteria. So in all these organisms, the primary pigment is called as bacteriochlorophyll A, and the other primary pigment is bacteriochlorophyll B, and the accessory pigments are the carotenoids. Okay, can you all hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then let us come to the absorption of light by the chlorophylls. Okay, what the light which is absorbed by the chlorophylls falls in the visible range, that is 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. Okay, now one thing that you should remember is the energy which is required for synthesis of 1 mole of ATP is to the tune of about 30 to 50 kilojoules. Okay, 30 to 50. Now why exactly it is there is not a proper exact figure why there is a range of 30 to 50 kilojoule? The answer to this question I will give you later. Okay, when we study respiration, then I'm going to answer this question. Okay, why there is a range of 30 to 50? Okay, why not 30 kilojoule, or why not 50 kilojoule, or not 40? Why not 40, or why not 45 kilojoule? Okay, I'll give that answer later. Okay, right, for the time being, you just remember that in order to synthesize 1 mole of ATP for the plant, it requires about 30 to 50 kilojoule of energy. The question is whether the plants are going to get enough energy from the sunlight. Will sunlight satisfy the requirement of 30 to 50 kilojoule of energy per mole of ATP? Okay, so now I have some important information for you here. 1 mole of photons. How much is 1 mole of photon? How much is 1 mole? Can anybody tell me? How do you define 1 mole of any substance? Who wants to answer
Hello,
this?
sir.
Yes.
Sir, Aishwarya.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Aishwarya. Yes.
Sir, the mole is yes, sir. The mole is a divider unit which is 6.0 199 into 10 to the power 23 unit of that substance.
6.023 into 10 raised to 23. Is it right?
6 point. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nice, sir. 6.02 199 0199.
Okay. Whatever it is. Okay. That is one part of the answer. What is the other? How do you define 1 mole? Can you define 1 mole?
Sir,
How much
hello?
is? How do you define 1 mole? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. I want to answer.
Yeah, I want to know what is the definition of 1 mole.
Sir, if we take molecular weight of that substance into its gram, then it will become 1 mole of that substance.
Okay. Is the answer complete? Does everybody agree to that? Who was that? Was it Pragati? Pragati,
Yes, sir, Pragati.
Your answer is not complete. Anybody wants to complete that answer? How much is 1 mole? What is the definition of 1 mole?
1 mole equal to the Avogadro number.
No, I want the other definition. I want the other definition. For example, how if you want to prepare 1 mole of NaOH, How will you prepare it? NaOH solution. Yes, Shamim. Am I audible to everybody? Shall I ask the question to individually to each one of you? Gajanan. Yogita, can you answer this? You are PG students, and I think you should know this answer. How do you prepare 1 mole of NaOH?
If we take 20, sir, if we take 22 gram of NaOH, then it will become 1 mole of it.
Why 22?
Because, sir, molecular weight of sodium is 11, oxygen is 8, and hydrogen is 1. If we add all this, then it will become 22.
Oxygen is not 8. It is 6. NaOH, no? Na is 23. Isn't it?
Yeah.
23 plus.
So 40 grams of sodium hydroxide is become 1 molar NaOH.
How 40? Can you tell me? How 40?
Oxygen 16 molecular mass number.
Yes.
Sodium 23 and hydrogen 1.
That is correct answer. Okay, but how do you define 1 mole? How will you make 1 mole of the solution? Can you explain again?
Sir, when the mass of the substance that is taken is equal to the mass of the the molecular mass of the substance is equal, then it is 1 mole.
Tell me the complete definition. All of you are giving me only half of the definition. Molecular weight of that compound in gram. That is okay. Molecular weight of the compound.
Dissolved in 1 liter of water.
Yes.
Dissolved in water.
Dissolved in not water, 1 liter water.
1 liter.
That is
1 liter of water.
Yes, then it will be 1 mole.
Yes.
If you take it only half a liter, then it will be 2 mole, isn't it? Or no, it will be 2 moles. If it is half liter, then it will be 2 mole. If it is 2 liter, then it will be half a mole, isn't it? So volume is also important because we are talking about concentration. 1 mole is the concentration. Okay, and when you say concentration, it is molecular weight divided. It is gram, the amount of the substance divided by volume. Isn't it? Then it is concentration. Is it right? Okay, so anyway, I'm going back to this slide. 1 mole of the photon, that is 6 into 10 raised to 23, or to be more precise, it is 6.023 into 10 raised to 6 into 10 raised to 23 photon, that is Avogadro's number. Okay, this 1 mole of photons has an average energy of about not an average, but that is the range of energy, that is 170 to about 300 kilojoule. Okay, how much is it? 170 to 300 kilojoule. That is 1 mole of photons, right? And then I told you that in order to make 1 mole of ATP, we require about 30 to 50 kilojoule. Okay. So from these numbers, can you tell me that whether the sunlight has enough energy to produce 1 mole of ATP? Suppose I have 1 mole of photons. Okay, 1 mole of photon is falling on a particular plant. Okay, plant leaf. Okay, or chloroplast. Then will that be able to generate the required amount of energy to synthesize 1 mole of ATP?
Yes, sir.
Yes. How?
Yes, sir.
How? Because we need about, say, 30 to 50 kilojoule. Okay. And we are getting 170 to 300. That is almost how many times you are getting? Almost 5 to 6 times. Isn't it?
Yes.
the energy which we are actually getting from the photons is about 5 to 6 times more than the energy which we require to synthesize 1 mole of ATP. And therefore, from a thermodynamic point of view, this is a very feasible process, okay, or favorable process. Isn't it right? So just forget about the 5 to 6 times, at least 1 mole ATP we can get, isn't it? From 170 to 300 kilojoule, at least 1 mole of ATP can be obtained. That is 30 to 50 kilojoules is required for 1 mole of ATP. Is it right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then we come to the chlorophyll, the structure of chlorophylls. Can you see the structure here? It's a very small diagram here, but I think on the next page I have a larger version which you can see here. Okay. I have 10 minutes now. In 10 minutes, I'm going to finish this lecture. Okay. Yeah. So can you see that there are two parts of the structure? One portion of the chlorophyll molecule has cycles like this, or cyclic structures. Okay, can you count the number of cycles? 1, 2, 3. This is 4. Okay, and this is the 5th cycle. Can you see that? There are 5 cyclic structures. Okay, and there is a chain-like structure. Is it right? Okay, so this is called as
Yes,
a polycyclic structure. Polycyclic means what? There are multiple number of cycles. There are 5 cycles. Okay, in fact, to be precise, there are 5 ring-like structures. These are all planar structures. Okay, that is in one plane. Okay, and then there is an extended polyene structure. Extended structure, that is to say, this chain-like structure is there. Okay, long chain-like structure. Okay, and then can you see that there is a magnesium ion at the center? Can you see this Mg center? Now this structure is almost similar to the hemoglobin structure. The only difference is in the hemoglobin structure we have the central iron atom, but here instead of iron we have the magnesium atom. Okay, and this magnesium atom is coordinated here by 1, 2, 3, and 4 nitrogen atoms. Can you see that? Nitrogen atoms are there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then there's a long phytol chain. This long chain here is called as the phytol chain. And this chain is esterified to the carboxyl substituent in ring number 4. So this particular ring here is ring number 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th ring. So this is the 4th one to which the chain is attached. And then if you look at this structure, this polycyclic structure, then you will find that there are alternating single bonds and double bonds. Can you see that? Single bond, double bond, single bond, double bond, single bond, double bond. Okay, can you see that? Okay, so
Yes,
this
sir.
particular type of a structure is very, very important. This alternating single and double bonds which are present in that structure, they are actually responsible for strong absorbance of the visible light. Okay, so chlorophylls are able to absorb light because of this alternating single and double bonds. Okay, this is also called as the conjugated structure, conjugated single bonds and double bonds. And because of this structure, the molecule is able to absorb sunlight, which is very, very important part of photosynthesis. Okay. Then there are 2 types of chlorophylls. One is chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Both of them appear green in color. Okay, they appear green in color means what? They can they release the green color. They can emit green color and they absorb the other colors in the visible range. Okay, especially they can absorb the red color and they can absorb the blue color, red, yellow, orange color they can absorb, blue color they can absorb, and green color is emitted by chlorophyll. Okay, in general, chlorophyll A is more in number as compared to chlorophyll B. And the absorption spectrum of these 2 molecules is such that they can actually complement each other. What is the meaning of complement? What is the meaning of complementation? whatever wavelengths of light cannot be absorbed by one molecule, that can be absorbed by the other molecule. Okay, so the two types of molecules are actually helping each other to absorb maximum amount of sunlight in the particular range of wavelengths. Okay. Now, in the case of algae and photosynthetic bacteria, the structure of these chlorophylls is slightly different. Okay, and therefore the absorption spectrum is also slightly different, but the overall mechanism or working of the molecules is the same, or function of the molecules is the same. Okay, now these chlorophyll molecules are associated with different proteins. Okay, and when they bind with the proteins, they form a certain types of complexes, which are called as the light harvesting complexes, and these are also referred as the LHCs. LHC stands for light harvesting complexes. Okay, so if you take a look at the light harvesting complex of a typical plant photosystem, then you have a structure like this. Okay, I'll show you the diagram. I think I have 2 or 3 minutes after this. Shall we join for another 10 minutes? Okay, because your next lecture will be at 12 o'clock, probably. I'm not sure, but as per what Bhukhtar madam had told me 2 days back, she was going to engage your lecture at 12 o'clock. Okay, so after this lecture, don't go anywhere. We are going to join again for about 10 minutes or so, 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so this is, can you see the structure of the light harvesting complex? Shall I increase the size of this? Okay, can you see it now? Okay, this
Yes, yes.
is it clear? Okay. There are three monomers which are present. Okay, so it is a trimeric structure. What is a trimeric structure? A trimeric structure indicates that there are 3 monomers present in the light harvesting complex. Okay, I'll show you here. Monomer number 1 is here, this one. Monomer number 2 is here, the dark one which is shown here, and monomer number 3 is shown here. Okay, all the 3 monomers are exactly the same, although I have shown the central one, bigger one, so that you can see it more clearly. Okay, actually all the 3 monomers are same in size as well as in the structure. Okay, let us look at the monomer number 2 here. Okay, what are we'll see the details of the monomer. Okay, so in this particular monomer of the light harvesting complex of plants, there are 7 chlorophyll A molecules. Can you see the green color structure here? That is chlorophyll A. Okay, and can you count the structures? There are 2 structures here, 1 and 2 here. Okay, 1 and 2. There is the third one here. There is a fourth one here. 4th and 5 are here, and there is the 6th and 7th structure here. Okay, chlorophyll A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7. Could you count that? 7 chlorophyll A molecules in monomer 1. Okay. Similarly, there are 7 chlorophyll molecules in chlorophyll A molecules in monomer 2 and monomer 3. And therefore, the total number of chlorophyll A molecules are 21. Okay. Is it okay, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Then let us look at chlorophyll B molecules. Chlorophyll B, this brown color structures. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, chlorophyll B molecules are 5 per monomer, and therefore if you multiply it by 3, because there are 3 monomers, the total number of chlorophyll B molecules in the light harvesting complex of plants is 15. Okay, 5 multiplied by 3, 15. Then let us look at this structure, lutein. Lutein is the yellow colored one. Okay, can you see this yellow colored one, which is, it is forming a brace kind of a thing, or a clamp kind of a thing. Okay, so this particular lutein, there are 1 and 2 molecules. Okay, 2 molecules per monomer, and therefore again if you multiply by 3, then there are a total of 6 lutein molecules in the light harvesting complex of plants. Okay. So shall I read this description which is written here? Light harvesting complex LCH. Okay, the functional unit is a trimer. Okay, functional unit is a trimer. What is the meaning of a functional unit? Unless the three monomers are put together, this complex will not function efficiently. It cannot function. Okay, so it is a functional trimer. And in this particular thing, there are a total of 36 chlorophylls. How 36? 21 of this type and 15 of this type. Are you getting it? Chlorophyll A 21 and chlorophyll B 15. So total is 36 chlorophyll molecules, and there are 6 lutein molecules.